Stephen Bardo from Bardo's Breakdown. Make sure you go there and give Stephen a follow and follow his content. He has got a full load of things there for you. I was just watching his piece with Chris Holtman from Ohio State. Stephen, how are you today, man?
Jim, I'm doing well. Just getting ready for some Indiana basketball tonight.
Looking forward to that. Are you on the call, by the way?
Yes, Kevin Kugler and me will be what I say on the ones and twos on the turntables. So yes,
that's perfect. Look forward to seeing you in live in color there. And speaking of that, Indiana has got they've got to make some changes. I'm not talking about personnel wise, but within themselves, they're just not getting done some of the things that they need to get done, especially with the level of talent that they have.
Yeah, but Jim, I always caution fans that it's November. It's still very early. Guys are learning how to play with one another in certain scenarios. And so, I think the Army game was a great example for Indiana, playing a team that's a little unorthodox. They don't have traditional bigs. And so you've got Kel'el Ware chasing on the perimeter, Malik Renew chasing. That's not going to be something they're going to have to do on a nightly basis in the Big Ten. So it's a good change for them. It's a good challenge, and it puts those guys in certain situations where they have to learn one another. But I think overall, I like what I'm seeing from Indiana.
Yeah, we've seen some good things and some questionable things, and I guess more they're the expectations, and that's a word that is a very tenuous word, but the expectations for someone like Mackenzie Mbako, very high coming in, and making that adjustment to the college game. Whether he's great or not, sometimes it takes longer for certain guys to make that adjustment, especially dependent upon the coach. They maybe, obviously, Mike Woodson is asking more than just the offensive performance. You've got to play defense for Mike Woodson.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I think that just goes for any team in the Big Ten. You've got to defend at this level. And that's the toughest part for young people to understand, is that a player like McKenzie is so talented, and he's been able to maybe not be held as accountable on the defensive end because he's such a talented shooter. And so it's going to take a little bit of time. I remember Jim as a freshman coming in, and you just cannot believe how fast the game is, how much faster the college game is from the high school game, and the strength aspect of it, having to learn different defensive coverages, trying to figure out what to do on offense, trying to stay out of the way, trying not to make a turnover. It's a lot to throw on any freshman. And so anytime you see first-year guys come in and really excel from day one, that's an exception. That's not the norm. And so I'm not worried about McKenzie. It's taking him some time to adjust, but he's definitely got the makeup and the mindset, I think, to be a superstar.
Yeah, and I think people, what we like to watch all of these games, like the Champions Classic that just happened over the weekend with those big-time teams, and Indiana fans, they want to see their team up there, but you have to wait till that's a reality, and sometimes that takes a little longer than necessary, or it takes a wake-up call, and they're about to get one whether they want it or not. And I'm not talking about the games that they've already played, which were already kind of a wake-up call, but they're going to be playing UConn, the defending national champion, this Sunday. And UConn has been playing well already. And then they're going to have to play either Louisville or Texas following that game. But then you've got Kansas, Auburn, a slate of Big Ten games with Michigan and Maryland. So the schedule gets real fast for Indiana. So I think that's what fans get worried about, because Indiana could find themselves in a hole early if they don't get it together in somewhat.
Yeah, I like the scheduling. And here's the thing, Jim, you mentioned UConn and possibly Louisville or Texas, but don't sleep on this Wright State team that they're facing tonight. Scott Nagy can coach. I go a long way back with him. We played against each other in high school. His dad was Dick Nagy, who was his longtime assistant at Illinois. He recruited me out of high school. So I've got some ties, and I know this program. Wright State has 4 guys that average double figures. Tanner Holden is a guy that Big Ten fans might remember his name. He was at Wright State his first 3 years, went to Ohio State last year. Now he's back at Wright State. This guy can score. Calvin is the preseason player of the year in the Horizon League. This is a quality team. So Indiana's they go up in weight class definitely on Sunday, but I hope that they don't overlook this Wright State team because they're very, very good.
Yeah, I mean they're 90th in the Ken Palm. This is a top 100 Ken Palm team,
Yes.
man. So you're not playing here. They ain't playing, as they say. But we've seen these other teams that have already come into Simon Scott Assembly Hall and give Indiana all they wanted, mainly because they've allowed them a lot of open 3-point shots, and they have gladly taken advantage of that. And boy, these teams have been stroking the three against Indiana.
Yeah, they have. And again, when you're looking at these teams like Army, Florida Gulf Coast, they're undersized. And so when Indiana steps up in weight class, I think the games will be more traditional in what I mean. And so Kel'el Ware won't necessarily have to chase a smaller forward on the perimeter. Malik Renew won't have to be switching or fighting over screens out on the perimeter. It'll be more traditional inside out play. And so I think those games, the Army, this one tonight, Florida Gulf Coast, I think they present different styles. And so it puts those guys in position to learn what they need to get better at. So I'm not really worried. I know that Mike Woodson will have them. The biggest thing to me, Jim, is how hard are you playing and what is the level of chemistry on your team? And I see guys really reaching out to Kel'el because he's kind of a soft-spoken guy, but he's so freaking talented that if he gets comfortable and he starts to understand where Malik is going to be on certain scenarios, what Xavier is going to do when he's penetrating right, can he get to the sweet spot? All these different nuances, those will start to come. But I'm telling you, I'm not concerned with Indiana. I liked how hard they're playing, and I liked how Army pushed them a little bit out of their comfort zone. That's what you want to see in these November games.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes it just takes, I don't know why, but brighter lights to get some guys engaged. And I think Stephen obviously knows what I'm talking about. What I mean is a bigger stage, and they need that bigger challenge for some reason. I don't know why, but we'll find out. But Kel'el Ware, speaking of him, he's been a pleasant surprise. He has played well, especially again, why Oregon did what they did with how they spoke about him on the way out was a disservice to him, because he looks like he is, and I don't want to call him a kid. He looks like he's a player that has learned, that is coachable, that is taken in what Woodson has given him, that he wants him to do, that how he wants him to try to play. And he is someone who I expect to continue to just grow as this season progresses.
Oh, I don't know if there's a more talented player in the conference. And I'm not saying that just because I'm on here with you, Jim. You know me. I'm a straight shooter. I've seen that young man. He's got a feathery touch. He can shoot the three. I've seen him knock down his free throws. He just doesn't get rushed. And that's the thing. Those are qualities of special players, that they can stay within their speed and not get rushed out of what they're trying to do. So I like what I'm seeing from Kel'el. I think that he's only going to get better. I think that his teammates, they're starting to see where he likes the basketball, where he's most effective. Can he catch on the move? Can we get him at the rim? Can he rim run? These different things that they're starting to find out, that this young man is supremely talented and gifted. And I think that there's a comfort level that he's finding with Mike Woodson and the staff, and being here in Bloomington. You know, when you take a young man and you take him across the country in Oregon, I'm not throwing shade at Oregon at all, because they will be Big Ten brethren here soon. But it's a different atmosphere. It's a different campus. It's a different way of life out there. And so sometimes young people get kind of off. They're just not comfortable in their surroundings. I think that here, for whatever reason, Kel'el feels a lot more comfortable, and it's starting to show on the court.
Yeah, and also being a freshman. Man, when you're a freshman, there is so much, your head is swimming for 1,000 reasons, because you're doing 1,000 different things just in basketball. You've got college, you're on your own there's just 1,000 new things that you're dealing with. So as a freshman, I think that sometimes that happens. And that's again why we go back to Mackenzie Mbako.
Yep.
I think that he's maybe being, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but he's just being inundated with a lot of things that he wasn't expecting. Maybe he didn't know it was going to be this fast. Maybe he didn't know he was going to have to play this hard on defense. They've never been, a lot of these guys have never been challenged like this because they've always been the best guy on the floor or the best guy in the gym when you're in high school. And that changes because when you get to this level, everybody was the best in the gym or on the floor or on their team back in high school.
Yeah, they were. And I think that what Mackenzie's starting to understand is that when you have that McDonald's All-American on your back, people come at you harder. And so he's getting everyone's best shot. And I'm not sure that he really quite understood that. But here's the thing with Mackenzie. It's only going to take one game for him to bust out and feel good about his offense, get that shot going. Because I always say it, Jim, that orange ball has some medicine in it. That's why I call it a pill sometimes. Whenever it touches guys' hands, if it goes through the net, all of a sudden everything enhances. The defense enhances, the focus, the alertness enhances. And so he's just got to see the ball go through the bucket a few times. And I think he's going to be fine because he's a supremely talented young man. And his shooting ability is going to make him a lot of money.
Man, I'm drawing a big blank. Who was the big guy that played for St. Mary's just a few years ago? Or Gonzaga, I guess it was. Daggone it. That's
Timmy?
why.
Drew Timmy?
No, not Timmy. The big guy.
Oh, you're talking about Holmgren.
Yes.
Yes.
What is different between him and say Kel'el Ware? Because they kind of remind me of each other, but Kel'el Ware seems to be much more athletic, and that's not a knock on Holmgren because he's a hell of a player, obviously.
Yeah, I think Holmgren was I think the way that he was, how can I say this? The way that he was developing his game was way more face up than Kel'el. I think Kel'el has a little bit more. Khalil's got face-up game, but he's got more back to the basket game than I think Chet Holmgren possesses. And so Holmgren was one of these Kevin Durant bigs that, they're not going to overpower people. And so he's more face-up, whereas Kel'el can do both. He can go back to the basket and he can face up. So I think that's the biggest difference between those two. And plus Khalil's legs, I think I've mentioned this before, he's got a pair of the best legs in college basketball in terms of strength and what he's going to be able to do. In terms of his overall strength, his frame and his base is so good that Chet Holmgren would pay to have the base that Kel'el Ware has. And so I think that when you look at the next level, or you look at dominating here at Indiana for however long Ware is going to be around, that size combined with his talent and skill level, the sky's the limit for Ware, in my opinion.
Fred pointing out, and correctly, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Michigan State have lost 2 of their first 3, or I don't know if that's a combination, but November is too early to form opinions. Absolutely. Everybody always considers Michigan State a March team because you have to grow, you have to get better, and Indiana is indeed in that situation as well. They take on a Wright State team tonight that they've got you talked about their coach. He's in his 8th year with this program. So they have great continuity, which is extraordinarily important. And I don't want to call them smaller level teams, but lower level teams don't get as much exposure.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come up and shock you. And I think Indiana's gotten a dose of that with Army giving them a run. It has been a tough go of it, but everybody is going to be coming at you.
Oh, there's no question. Think about this, Jim. A lot of players that play in the Horizon League, if they came from the state of Ohio like Tanner Holden did, he always dreamed of playing at Ohio State. So you got guys on Wright State's roster that are from the state of Indiana that dreamed about putting a Hoosier jersey on. So they're going to be able to walk into Simon Scott tonight and play in Assembly Hall. Like guys in Indiana, the Big Ten players, they think they forget these things sometimes, that these are prominent places. This is a blue blood. This is a place where kids dream about playing. And so every single time that Indiana steps on their home floor, they're getting everybody's best shot. And for a team that are from the MAC, the Horizon, the Missouri Valley Conference, the Ohio Valley Conference, any of those teams that get a chance to play Big Ten teams on their floor, they're going to bring their A game. And so I think that Mike Woodson and his staff will do a good job of getting that message across to his players, because they don't want to get surprised, because this is a quality Wright State team that, as you said, has continuity, that runs their stuff, and they've got a couple of 1,500 plus point scorers on that team. So those guys can fill it up as well.